from the Born to Play Futsal TV show, and welcome to the Spanglish Sports World Network on Zingo TV channel 250 and 251. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app from the app stores for iOS and Android devices. After you download the app, we would love it if you rated the app and left a comment. The app is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs made from 2016 onwards. So a couple of shout outs before we dive into this interview, which I both know that Alvaro and I are stoked about. A huge shout out to Joma for us. They have been long-term supporters of the amazing sport of futsal. And just thank you very much to Joma for consistently supporting futsal all across the world. And that wasn't paid, by the way. That was just my own personal shout out. And then also on Friday, Axis Futsal France played against Barca in the UEFA Futsal Champions League. And while they did lose to Barca, Alvaro and I both watched the game. It was a super exciting game. And just we had the honor and privilege to interview the Access president and the head of international projects last week. So just thank you very much to Access Futsal for doing an amazing run. And we are so looking forward to seeing what Access does in the future with futsal, because they are so pushing the game of futsal forward around the world. So thank you very much. Okay, so now I am super excited about this interview, and I said that before, but I know Alvaro is as well. We are talking to Keith Tozer today. He is the technical director of U.S. Youth Futsal. But before we start, there's always an icebreaker question that is always asked. And today's icebreaker question is, and I'm hoping you have this, Keith. I'm hoping you have this because I know Alvaro and I do. What was the last song on your Spotify account?
I don't have a Spotify account.
Oh.
But I have been listening to Mark Anthony for the last hour, though.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I love Latin music.
Nice, amazing.
Yeah. So,
all right, Alvaro.
So for me, I don't remember the last one. I'm not going to reach out my phone right now, but I heard yesterday I was listening to Disturbed and Tool.
Okay.
And in Brazil, I listened a lot of Chico Sainz e Nação Zumbi. Those are the bands that I've been listening at this point.
You know, there's a great place in Rio called Lapa.
Lapa.
And Lapa, Andrea, do you know what Lapa is?
I should, but I don't.
Lapa is like a couple city blocks of every kind of music place that you can imagine. If you want salsa, Latin, rock, disco, it's awesome. People dancing in the streets.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so mine would be, so it's actually a futsal connection. It's Run DMC. It's Tricky. So Magnus actually made a fun little ditty with some guys doing jumping rope and stuff, and that was the song. So now I've added it to my playlist. So yeah, it was a Run DMC thing. All right, cool. So icebreaker over. Okay, so Keith, give us a little bit of background about you.
Oh gosh, how long we got? Where do you want me to start?
Okay, so I should start at the beginning, because we don't you're a legend in futsal. Okay. So
should we talk about my futsal or?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, all the way back.
You know, I didn't start playing soccer till I was 13.
Oh.
My brother brought home a soccer ball. One thing led to another. I was asked by Francisco Marcos, who's a very famous guy here in the United States and Portugal, asked me to play for Team USA in Oneonta 74. I went there. I guess people liked the way I played. Next thing I know, I came back a year later and went to Oneonta State. 3 years into my college soccer, I got asked to try out for the U.S. Olympic team. I went there. Next thing you know, I was going to be drafted in the NASL, but then I got drafted in the Major Indoor Soccer League. So I spent time in the Major Indoor Soccer League. One of my coaches, John Kowalski, became the national team coach of Futsal. So I played in the first tournament in '86 in Budapest, Hungary. It was called five-a-side at that time. And obviously I was playing indoor soccer, but fell in love with futsal. I mean, and they're very similar. Obviously, you know, the boards and the ball difference and everything. Then 10 years went by, and then John was coaching in Major League Soccer in Miami, and he couldn't make the first qualifiers for CONCACAF. So he asked me if I would take over the team or be an interim coach. And I loved the opportunity. And we won the gold medal. So we qualified. I did not take the team to Spain. John did, and Ron Newman, another storied coach in this country. And then a year later, I was asked to take over the team. I said I wouldn't because it was my coach's team. But he said he couldn't because he was in Major League Soccer. So I spent 20 years being the national team coach and at the same time coaching Milwaukee Wave and Louisville and a bunch of Los Angeles, and became a FIFA instructor 6-7 years ago. So they traveled to Spain, the Spanish football complex a couple times. So now I've traveled the world teaching futsal as a FIFA instructor, then became a CONCACAF instructor, then became the technical director of United States Youth Futsal. Then a year and a half, 2 years ago, I searched podcasts for futsal, and there really wasn't any. There was a couple, but I was like, what the heck? I might as well try it. So started a podcast, went to my children's room late at night and downloaded the app, and I had 4 listeners. And I think now we have 225,000 listeners in 130 countries. Yeah. And we just released some coaching education. So that's the 30,000 foot view.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Wow.
I've been really, Andrea and Alvaro, I love the game of futsal, but I love the people that are involved with futsal. It's an honor to be on your show. I know you started this recently and it's grown rapidly. You've had some of my friends on the show already. Just the men and women that I've met through the game around the world, it's been so much fun.
I think that's the best, one of the best parts about talking about futsal, working with futsal, is the people that you met, are the people you met, because we are always and we are consistently pushing and trying to make the game and help the game to, develop everywhere in the world, including our neighborhood, our backyard here in Canada. And that's what we do. So we are keeping pushing. We're going to find people that share the same passion for the game. And that's amazing. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah, and I would agree. We've had some amazing conversations with futsal people, and I think, and I'm sure you see this as well. There's the similar thread throughout all of them is that we're typically all entrepreneurs, or we have to be creative and we have to do things differently than the regular football people do because it is futsal. So yeah, it's everybody we talk to has a very interesting story and they're all super passionate about futsal. Yeah, it's super amazing.
Yeah, it's great. You had the president of Access on. I mean, I can hardly wait till the pandemic goes, guys, and maybe we can all travel together. Wouldn't it be awesome?
Yeah.
Go to Paris and watch Carlos Ortiz and Ricardinho play. I mean,
yes.
I mean, that's like, I've been to Madrid and I've been to Barcelona. I've been a lot of places, but to go to Paris to see Ricardinho and Ortiz and the wonderful stuff that they're all doing for futsal in France is awesome. Actually, I just got the chills. That's great.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I want the pandemic to end. I want to just be able to travel, because that's the amazing thing about futsal is that it's so international. It's, and when you don't have a strong presence in your own home country, I mean, we have some, but not as strong as other countries, obviously. Yeah. It's that you have that drive to go and see, okay, this is what they're doing. And these are the best players in the world. And yes, it's just, it would be awesome to travel.
So. Yeah, and I know you guys are a little bit more locked down. I talked to Kit Saladopoulos this morning, who's the national team coach for Canada, and Kit used to play for me. But he told me that, I mean, he's on lockdown. Here in the States, Americans have short-term memories. Some states are playing, right? And he said that right now in Montreal, they can't do anything. So.
Yeah.
Pray for the pandemic to be over.
You just used one of my questions to understand how if you guys are playing futsal there, because here in BC, it's hard to play futsal right now. Yes, we can go to the gym, but it's hard to organize a futsal match here at this point because of the pandemic. And we are not in lockdown in BC. How are things happening in the US? Are the kids and adults able to play leagues and play games?
It all depends on what level the virus is at in your state.
Hmm.
For instance, California is getting much better. So all to my friends out there, we're praying for you. They've been on lockdown. They can do some outdoor, I believe. Here in Wisconsin, for the past 3 or 4 months, you can go to a gym, but you have to wear your mask and stay, the correct distance. Some indoor centers haven't been open yet. Kansas City's pretty open. United States Youth Futsal just had a regional event in Kansas City, and they have another one coming up in Minnesota at the end of February, I believe. So depending on what state you are in, we're slowly getting better. But the vaccine, and I'm sure you hear the news from the States, we are now vaccinating 1.7 million people per day. And we've gone from, 125,000 people in a hospital, 65,000, but we just almost reached the 500,000 mark of deaths. So it's been tough.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys are able to play games then, because we're not in BC. We can't play any games.
You can train and you can play games.
Okay.
All depending on, again, what the level of the virus is in your state.
Okay.
So if you're a red state, which means a high level of the virus, then you have to either not do anything or do it a little bit lower. Then there's other states that you can play games and do trainings.
Into trainings. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, here outdoor in BC, sorry, Andrea.
No, go ahead.
Outdoor activities, so for soccer, for example, we are able to practice, run a socially distant practice, but we don't have the games anymore. So the season is pretty much over. Season should finish like at the end of this month, beginning of March. So we're almost done. But indoor sports is a little bit tougher to play. So we're not going to have games anymore this season, which ends in March for soccer.
Is hockey being played? I mean, that's big sport in Canada.
I had a conversation about youth hockey to come back right now, but I don't know where they are in that conversation at this point. I know our players, our soccer players that plays hockey, families are starting to organize their next season, but they are not, as far as I'm concerned, they're not playing, they're not practicing.
Yeah, I think they can do, I think it's very similar to soccer though, for us in BC. I think they can do practices, socially distanced practice, but I don't think they can play games because I swim super early in the morning, and sometimes I've actually, as I'm leaving the pool, I can tell hockey players are actually coming in to practice. So, but yeah, I don't think they're scrimmaging or anything. I think they're
hope that pool's inside.
Yeah, it is inside. Although I am going to be swimming in the ocean come March, so we're going back out. So yeah, I'm an ocean swimmer. What can I say? Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about U.S. futsal and what's happening with futsal in the U.S.
I think similar to Canada, futsal in the past 8 to 10 years has really taken a big boom. I've been selling this vacuum cleaner for 30 years, maybe 35. And for a lot of years, Andrea, I couldn't sell it. Now I can't keep it in stock. I mean, everybody's talking futsal. It's amazing. We have 3 major groups here. Obviously, I'm with U.S. Youth Futsal. You have U.S. Futsal. You have the United Futsal. And then you have a bunch of other groups all around. And I really don't care who they are, as long as they're playing futsal, and as long as they're taking care of the kids and the game, the referees and the teaching and everything. But every day there's someone building a new court. I don't know if in Canada or you guys knew this. I believe back in the 90s when we had the World Cup here, U.S. Soccer started the U.S. Soccer Foundation charity because they made millions of dollars after the World Cup. So the mantra for U.S. Soccer Foundation, the 501c3, was to build outdoor fields in the United States in inner cities. After a couple of years, they found out that it was like space in Sao Paulo. You can't find space to build an outdoor field. They had difficulty finding space. If they found space, it was very expensive. Then who was going to take care of the field? Who was going to take care of the goals? So now U.S. Soccer Foundation in the last 4 to 5 years are, they call them mini pitches. They're kind of like futsal courts. So U.S. Soccer Foundation, Major League Soccer, private enterprises are building futsal courts everywhere in the United States. So you have courts being built or renovated. You have leagues, tournaments, and other competitions continuing to grow. And then you have all the way up to the PFL, which I'm involved, and hopefully that'll kick off whenever, so that we do have kind of like a pathway from youth to pro.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So that's really good to know, because I would say, and I know in Canada, the situation is quite different. I mean, Quebec and Ontario, where KIT is, it's such a different beast, and it's definitely taken off. And for sure, part of it, I think, is part of the weather. You know, when it's cold, you have to play indoors. So why not play futsal? Certainly in BC, it hasn't. I mean, when Alvaro and I were running the Brazilian Futsal Club, yes, we were showing traction, and then COVID hit. But in BC and all across the other provinces, it's very kind of up and down. It's not consistent. So is that the same in the States, or do you feel that you have like the same base, like an appropriate, like a baseline in all the states?
I would say there's starting to be a good baseline in all the states. The problem that we have in the United States is similar to Canada, where our country is so huge. So it's kind of like the professional league in Guatemala. It's all in Guatemala City. So they got 12 teams or 16 teams. All the players pretty much who play in the national team live in Guatemala City. The same as in Costa Rica, you know, smaller country, all the players play in the same pro league. So they kind of have their arms wrapped around it. Our arms, Canada, the United States, is so big. So it's kind of like where people like Alvaro come to a country and pick a city, and then his love and passion, or women that come, they start growing a futsal pod there. And then there's another futsal pod here. These pods are now beginning to connect.
Okay, good.
Which is really exciting. And it's kind of like shows like your show. It's how do we connect people together in order to keep building our sport?
Yeah, here unfortunately we had to stop for a while the futsal program because of COVID, hoping that in the future we were going to go back on the courts. And we were seeing some other clubs interested to run, soccer clubs interested to run futsal programs or something similar to futsal. When I say similar, is because of all those rules adaptations that we can see all around the world. And my question for you next is going to be, in your speech, you said, as long as everybody, I don't care about whatever they are doing, the other organizations. For me, it matters the way they're treating kids, and especially if they are playing futsal. Question for you. When we adapt too much the rules, do you think this is beneficial or not for the game of futsal?
When we are changing the rules, or when we make...
Yeah, I'm using the word adapting too, because I'm living in Canada for 5 years. I'm learning a little bit about the culture in Canada.
Yeah.
So if I use my Brazilian question would be, do you think if we change rules, we are helping futsal or not? Because my opinion, when we change too much the rule, we are not playing the game of futsal.
Yeah. That is a wonderful question, by the way. For instance, years ago, FIFA brought in sliding tackles, because 7-8 years ago, you couldn't tackle. So all of a sudden FIFA changed the law. And as a FIFA instructor, I was like, that's kind of weird. Why would we bring tackling into this beautiful game? It's supposed to be imagination. Well, when I talked to my FIFA friends, they said that they wanted the rule books to read similar. So I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense, outdoor to futsal. There has been a rule, Alvaro, that I've been kind of playing with for the last 4 or 5 years, because a lot of us in the States play on basketball courts. And because you're not allowed to put tape on the courts, you use the 3-point arc as the penalty area for futsal, which, as you know, is bigger, right? Yeah. So what I would do for the last 5 or 6 years, and I got to give credit to my ex-assistant coach, Vava Marquez, him and I talked about it, is we said to all our referees in all our U.S. youth futsal competition, let the players put the ball down, the goalkeeper put the ball down in the penalty area. It makes the court bigger, right? Mm-hmm. So makes the court bigger, defense and offense is not packed together. And now what did FIFA just recently do? Now you can play the ball to a field player inside the penalty area. Now comes the futsal. So that rule I really liked. I think when they changed the goalkeeper rule, before it was if you played it to a goalkeeper, you couldn't get it back until certain things happened. Now it's changed again. I think that was okay. I think the game right now is where it should be. I don't think the goals should be bigger. I don't think the ball should change. We're experimenting with 4 quarters in the PFL, and that's only for marketing reasons.
Mm.
And
Because
I could
the
talk
time,
to you
the
about
timeout.
that. 4 quarters of 15, same
Okay.
time. Okay. So, people could go to the bathroom. Someone can go get a beer. Someone can go get a soda. Someone can go get an ice cream. So if you have a break, like they do in other sports like basketball,
Yep.
to help drive this sport. Because remember, we all love it, but we got to sell it. And if we don't sell it, then there's
Not
going to be a lot of
sustainable.
people. So to answer your question, I think laws can be changed somewhat. But, people are talking about throw-ins and, I like the game where it is right now. They just changed the kick-in rule, right? So the ball has to be on the line.
On the line, yeah.
On the line. But now your foot can be in the court.
Yeah.
So if you think of the tactical situation, before the ball could be, first it was on the line and both feet had to be on the line. Then the ball was off the line, but your feet couldn't be on the line or on the court. So now with the ball on the line and your feet can go on the court, you can actually shoot. So
No, helps a lot, especially for like if you play futsal, like if you're a right footer play on the right side of the court, it's going to be almost impossible to take that kick in forward because of you need to turn your body and it's almost impossible. Your balance foot should be outside. Anyways, I like that rule. I really like that rule.
Yep.
Talking a little bit more specific about the 4 periods that you are using.
you're interested in it.
Yeah, I heard a conversation that they probably, or someone was telling me, one important coach in Brazil, that maybe one possibility would be in one of the periods mandatory play with the flying goalie. Is that a rule that exists? Is that part of the conversation, or you have never thought about that?
No, we thought a lot about the goalkeeper. Because in Canada, if you remember, hockey didn't like how much the goalkeeper was handling the puck
Yes.
in the corners and behind the net. So they put lines in. So they said, you know what? We love goalkeeping, but we came to see the Kretzkys of the world play, right? And the same thing, we want to see the Ricardinhos of the world and the Ortizes and whoever the best players are. Do we always want to see the goalkeeper? Because remember, and I've been a coach for many years, when we get laws of the game as a coach, we try to adapt our teams inside the laws to make our team better. For instance, now you get the goalkeeper above half court so that he can get the ball. Some put in the corner, some put in the middle. So the goal, Hagita, I love watching him play, right? Coming forward. So I love the goalkeeper rule the way it is now.
Okay.
Yeah,
but in PFL, you don't have any rules that makes the goalkeeping, the flying goalkeeping mandatory. Like in one period, no, not at all.
No. We have thought about some different rules for the goalkeeper, but to say you got to go forward now, I mean, you bring a goalkeeper forward because you're losing or you want to get possession or you want to change the momentum of the game. But to tell somebody, hey, by the way, this quarter you got to go forward.
Yeah.
To me, I don't like that.
Yeah, you are interfering on coach's decision if you go that road. Yeah.
And you know what? There are a lot of brilliant coaches coaching futsal in this world, both men and women. Shahzad, who's the head coach of Kuwait women's, right? She won the AFC in 2018. She's an unbelievable coach. And coaches will adapt to rules and lawmakers got to keep tweaking this here and there. But there are some great coaches in the world.
And we're talking about coaching, we're talking about rules. Tell us a little bit about your coaching's education course, the license system that just came out a few months ago. And what can you tell us about that? I'm excited to see
You know, it's funny, whenever you have a plan to do something, you always think it's going to be faster and easier. So when we said, let's do coaching, we we're like, oh, yeah, let's put it together. You know, after a couple 100 hours of working, you know, we released the level 1, which is an online grassroots program. It's been a little bit difficult because I talked to some people in Canada about their education. We pretty much had to do this in the pandemic. So filming was very difficult. We had to take film that we did before the pandemic. But we're proud of it. What it's great, it's always a work in progress that we can go back and change it. Yeah. Someone gave me a recommendation the other day under laws of the game to put contrast between outdoor football and futsal. 11 players versus 5, size of the goal. And I think for grassroots coaches just getting involved in the game, I was like, okay, we'll do that. Then we did the level 2. And then we brought in animation, and then we brought more methodology and systems of play. And the level 1 probably takes an hour and 15 to an hour and a half. The second one is probably an hour and a half to hour and 40 minutes on an average, but we dig deeper into it. So those are level 1s, level 2s. And I don't know if you've seen some of my postings, but our first posting was from H.E.R. Lozano, who won 2 World Cups, 2 UEFA championships, president LNFS. He gave us a testimony. H.E.R. from Kuwait just gave it. Kit from your country just gave it. Diego, Tozer, who won the World Cup, he just gave one. He's fantastic. Now we're working on the level 3.
Good.
The first 2 are online. Level 3 is a state course, which is going to be 6 hours long, in classroom 2, on court 4. Then a national license. That will be a weekend. And then an international license, which will be a week.
So the way you are describing here, you have short time period to give that taste to whoever wants to learn a little bit about futsal. And then if they get interested, so they can go higher and higher in your levels. And then if they come to play for the national or take the national license, of course, they need to go to US. But if they want to study and learn about futsal online, that's an option.
100%. We have people from around the world. We had people in Ireland just take it, Qatar take it, Australia, a lot of people in England. We're working on doing it in Spanish also. So it's before coaching a game, before managing an event, I love teaching. That's if I come back in another body, I hope I come back as a teacher, because I'd like to take an F and D student and make them a B and A student instead of taking an A student and maintaining them. But I love teaching. Everybody has opinions, right? So there's people who probably don't like the course, and there's some people who love the course. Alvaro, I got a message from somebody in Brazil who did a YouTube evaluation on the course, and I wasn't going to watch it. You know why? It'd be like someone in Brazil doing a baseball course and an American doing an evaluation of it. I'm like, oh my God, it'd probably kill me. But he said he liked it. So
that's okay. That's okay. But come on, don't think that we are not gonna like only because we are from Brazil and we understand the game better. We are here to share information. I think the more information out there, the better for the sports development. It doesn't matter where this information is coming from. So we have you doing this. I know that there is at least one more in US in the past. There was an online course. I don't know which.
Yes, you're right. United Soccer Coaches.
Yeah, they had that. I took that one actually. It was a Brazilian guy. The facilitator was a Brazilian.
Wilson Powell.
Yeah. And then we have Sergio Gargali. I hope I'm not saying his name wrong. From the China head coach. He has his own methodology out right now. We have the guys in Spain, Pro 5. We have some guys in Africa putting this out. So we have all over the place. And for me, the more, the better. We have CBFS in Brazil amalgamating with CBF and doing the license course in Brazil. So we have information, a lot of information out there, which is amazing for our sports. This is awesome. And thank you for making this happen. And
Can I give it a plug? So if you
Oh,
want
of
to
course.
take a course, you can go to usyouthfutsal.com and click on coach and education, and that'll take you to the level 1 before you go to the level 2. Now, if you're a coach out there who's taken someone else's course and you have a certificate, and you feel that you don't need to take the 1, or maybe even you don't feel to take the 2, you want to go to the 3, then you would just email me at Tozer@USYouthFutsal, and then I look at your credentials and then move on. Andrew Caro does a great job of stuff on YouTube out there. UEFA, I mean, God, I love you. UEFA's B, that you can go online and they have an app, right?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Ali in Asia done an honorable job. For Hetty, who used to be the national team coach in Brazil, he has great stuff online. So there is wonderful stuff out there now.
Yeah, Marquinhos has a post-graduation right now. He's running a online post-graduation. So that's the level down there. But again, it's always information. The more, the better, in different languages, accessible for everyone. That's amazing. Again, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. You know, you can see behind me all these books, right? And a lot of them are motivational books, right? And how to motivate people. So normally people pick up one book and they say, oh my, I'm going to do it this way. And then a month later, they read another book and they go, oh, I'm going to do it this way. And then they pick up another book. So my point is, you got to take all the information together and keep adapting. So for me, you got to take a course from Brazil. You got to take a course from Spain. You got to take a course from Argentina. You got to take a course from the United States. You got to take a course from Canada. And I think every time you do, you learn something different. Then you become a great coach.
Of course. And then do you think, thinking on US and the organization you have there with different organization going here and there, do you think down the road you would be able, or I don't know if this is beneficial for the game of futsal, but do you think we would have like US soccer organizing futsal as is, and then the youth programs being organized to one or everybody attached to US soccer? Do you think this is beneficial for the game of futsal?
In the perfect world, the way I would like to see it is CONCACAF as our confederation really dig deep into futsal, men and women and youth. Then US soccer and CSA underneath CONCACAF, full men and women's team with youth teams underneath it. That I would love. My only consideration and hope is that they hire futsal people to run those programs.
Thanks.
Now, for people who are listening to the show and don't know, and you've already mentioned it, in Brazil, the CBFS did the futsal in Brazil in relationship with CBF. They work together, same budgets and working together and so forth. And there was back and forth. Now, Spain, they did the same thing. Futsal people started their futsal association. Then it went back to the federation. Then it went back to the other one. And now it's underneath the federation again. So I'm hoping that when US Soccer does it, that it's underneath the US Soccer banner with futsal people doing it, or they go to a bunch of futsal people here in the United States and say, by the way, we want to hire you 5 or 6 men and women. We want you to run the futsal program. Here's your budget. We're going to meet every month or every quarter, and then we're going to be working together, just as long as they're doing something.
Meaning there is a spot or space for futsal within US soccer. That's what you were looking for.
Yes, that would be my preference. You know, Anson Dorrance. I don't know if you know him. He coaches North Carolina. He's won 21 national championships. He coached Mia Hamm. He's coached Kristen Lilly, Heather O'Reilly. The list goes on and on in national team women. Futsal for him, he said it's the game changer.
Yeah.
So if our coach, who's won so many national championships, has coached so many wonderful women, thinks that futsal is the game changer, then I'm saying to our federation, saying to our people in outdoor football, believe in this. It will create players. It will bring different players. So, yes, to go back, I think if US Soccer does it on both sides, and it's extremely important we do it both sides, men and women, from full to you whatever, it'd be wonderful.
That's amazing. That would be an amazing structure going there. Just to give you what's going on in Brazil, CBFS is amalgamating to CBF right now.
Mhm.
Maybe that's the conversation now. Probably the national team, the men's national team, that was the conversation, would be run by CBF,
Mm.
which is the soccer body government, and the coaches education, it is already being run by CBF. CBFS is not running any coaches education anymore. It's through CBF already.
And that started a lot with Falcao, because Falcao
Oh yes,
wanted the
yeah,
CBFS to go to CBF. Because at every time I played against Brazil, it had the CBFS logo.
Mm.
yes, yeah, yeah. It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Right now they're trying to amalgamate and go under CBF. Let's see, it's going to be beneficial for the game of futsal, because the conversation now there is the same as we're having here. Hopefully futsal people will run the sport, they will have their budget, they will do what is best for the game of futsal. So that's what we are hoping that's going to happen in Brazil going forward. Now let me pivot a little bit this conversation here and ask you, that's a personal question. Andrea maybe know this much better than me. Indoor soccer.
Mm.
I know you are another guy, important guy for indoor soccer. We don't have indoor soccer in Brazil as a game, as a sport. We play indoor, but we use normally futsal rules. I'm going to ask you a question, and maybe it's going to be a simple question, but how can we make futsal as big as indoor soccer in US? You can answer this question, say, no, yeah, it is already. And then that's why I'm saying this is a simple question. But how can we make that? Because I've seen some games, MASL, I have problems to say that,
Yep.
MASL games, and we have people watching, the crowd is there, we have all that organization around. It seems like a show, like always, US. You guys do and do this very well. But how can we make futsal as big as indoor soccer?
I think it starts at the top.
Mm.
If you look at the owner of Tesla, he's building rockets and taking ordinary people around the world. And he can only do that because of the amount of money he has, the vision he has, and the passion he has. If you look at Major League Soccer, they have done an awesome job of building that league in the last 20 plus years, because for the first 10 years, there was only 3 owners owning 10 teams. So you had the Kraft family, you had the Anschutz family. Um, they carried, Anschutz had 6 teams, and they were losing tons of money, but they had a passion, they had a belief, and they had the money. So the more young people that are futsal lovers, become wealthy, who want to turn around and then do futsal, I think that will be an important part. Why that's still happening, all the things that you're doing, and the coaching education, and then people playing, and the grassroots coming up, I think it's just a matter of time. I had a player who I traded from Los Angeles. He became a multi-billionaire in St. Louis, and he just bought an MLS team. So I was hoping he'd buy a futsal team, you know. But I think the more people we find with passion, belief, and money who want to build it the right way, they're going to outer space. I mean, so, and there is going to be people coming up and doing that. In the meantime, I think everybody's doing a fantastic job of marketing and selling it. And so to answer your question, if you're listening to the show and you got a lot of money,
We are here.
We're here.
Let's
Okay, so I just actually want to ask, and that's because we're talking about leagues. So Alvaro just talked about MASL. So what about the professional futsal league? So I've heard rumblings about it. I've heard that at one point Mark Cuban was interested because it's a natural fit, because futsal plays on hard court, basketball teams have time off. So where's that at? Because I've heard this a couple times of, if we had a pro league, even in the United States, and, Canadians would come down to play and participate and watch, right? It would sort of build a pathway for futsal players.
I'm going to give you the quick 30-second, 30,000-foot view
Okay.
of how the PFL started.
Yeah.
Years ago, I was going to play before the 2016 World Cup. Yeah, before the 2016 World Cup. We were playing France here in Wisconsin. And Donnie Nelson, who's the president of the Dallas Mavericks, called me up and said, hey, by the way, I might get in indoor soccer. You want to come down and like coach my team and be president and part owner? And I go, wow, that sounds like really exciting, but I'm coaching the team in Milwaukee. I go, but have you ever heard of the game of futsal? Mm-hmm. And he said, what's that? And I said, soccer on a basketball court. He goes, wow, that's intriguing. And I go, well, we're playing France 2 games here in Milwaukee. Why don't you come? Well, he couldn't come, so his daughter Christy came. Mm-hmm. Christy fell in love with it. She went back to her dad. And Rob Andrews, who's with the United Futsal here in the United States, he was at the game. A month later, and it could be days either way. A month later, I'm in Dallas and I'm sitting down with Michael Hitchcock, Donnie Nelson, Christy, myself, and a guy named Brian Dick. And Brian Dick, who's a multimillionaire, already had the name and logo, PFL. And it was like, wow. So we drew up paperwork and we became partners and we started the PFL. Now, it was going to be a regional league. That's our thought. Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, Austin, blah, blah, blah. I called up Jim Buss, who owns the Lakers, owner of the Lakers, because I used to work for him, coaching his team. And I said, hey, by the way, here's the story. He goes, how much are they? And I told him, he goes, I'll take 2. So we're like, all of a sudden, we got from regional to national. Now, Rob Andrews had Barcelona relationship, and Barca said we'd be in. So now all of a sudden we went regional, national, international. While that was going on, we did a PFL event in Dallas, sold out, 8,000 people. We brought Barca's second team in. Mm-hmm. We created Team USA. We created Team Canada. The buzz. Following year, we got Ricardinho and Falcao coming. We had a draft. We took over Epcot Center in Disney World. Then I get a phone call from Donnie, and he goes, by the way, Mark just walked up in the airplane, and he wants in. Wow. Mark being Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
So the question was, do we want to sell some of our shares to let Mark in or no? That was obvious. So, so then we did another event down in Orlando, and it was going great. So the PFL, we do have conference calls every Monday. We do have all the infrastructure done. Now it's just the pandemic didn't help. Again, we're still looking for some owners. So I think the PFL will be great again at the end of the pathway. I really feel there should be a women's professional league. Yeah. And I think Canada should do the same or be part of the PFL. So that's where we're at right now.
That's great. So do you, sorry to push you a little further. So do you see in a timeline, like, do you see a couple years? Do you see 5 years? I mean, obviously the pandemic has to subside and things have to slow down, but do you kind of have a timeline in your head as to when you'd love to kind of kick it off or?
Well, I've watched more politics in the past 2 years in my country than I've ever watched in my life. And one person said about the pandemic, we're just around the corner to get it done. Well, we're not around the corner.
No, we're not.
Our president was just asked, do you have a timeline? And he said, well, as long as we get it done. When it's done, it's done. I would love for it to start yesterday.
Yeah.
I would love for it to start today or tomorrow. When we start, and a lot of people around the world want the U.S. to have a pro league because they feel it will help other countries, players, coaches, front office staff. I don't want to put a time frame on it. I will say this. There will be a PFL.
Okay.
I just don't know when.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Because I know you talk to kids, so I agree with you. I think because Canada typically follows what the US does, right? And so if you guys did a professional futsal league, then it would totally legitimize it because we do follow so much of what the US does. And I just think it would help push the women's game and just even help give us Canadians a pathway. Because that's actually the struggle that we have is that Alvaro and I, we have trained amazing players or amazing goalkeepers. And then it's like, well, where do they go after that? Right. And again, it's that lack of pathway. And we have one for football for sure. But then when it comes to futsal, it's so piecemeal and it's tough because where do you go? That's actually what we love about Access is because now it's like, there is a pathway, right? There's something, even though it's international, it gives kids that momentum and they can see themselves becoming that player, right? So
Oh, for sure. And like I said, I as a commissioner, I really would want a women's professional league.
yeah.
I really want my country. Now, I understand why the U.S. doesn't have a national team for women, because they said that it's not a FIFA World Cup yet. And when it is, they'll have one. But I feel that if we did have a women's team, it would help grow the game. Okay. There's no FIFA World Cup as an official competition, even though there are competitions. I think having a women's national team would do wonders for women in North America. And I think our American team, with maybe ex-players or girls coming up in the game, would be one of the best teams in the world in a couple of years.
Yeah, totally. And I think it would also help just with, because the NWSL, right? They have been highly successful, right?
Very.
So if futsal can piggyback with the women's team, or even say there's some futsal league that's at that same level, yeah, it would just, for women in particular, it would just propel them and give them way more options.
Yeah, and there's another thing that's important about the professional league. If you look at the United States won 2 CONCACAF championships in futsal, and actually was more, but then Costa Rica and Guatemala started their own pro league. When you have players playing 3 or 4 days a week with their pro team and 2 days a week with the national team, or flip it when there's a national program, how do you compete with that? Yeah. Now, Canada doesn't have a professional futsal league. Kit's done a great job, okay? And Mexico doesn't have a professional futsal league. So those countries bypassed us, the United States, because of their pro league. If we had a pro league in the United States, Canadian players and Canadian coaches could work in that. Mexican coaches and players could play in that. So when there is a competition, then these players from our 3 countries, North America, would have a better opportunity because they're playing at a high level all the time.
Yes. Completely agree. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, having a league, a professional league, would help everybody. We were talking to some players. We were talking to Kit, about the league in US, the indoor league, how that league is helping to keep the players fit, keep the players engaged in the sport, to prepare them to the futsal matches that they're going to play going forward. But again, let me pivot this conversation again. And Kate, I would like to listen from you about the CONCACAF games that are coming. What do you think about first? Do you think we're going to have the CONCACAF games in April?
Well, right now they're scheduled on May 3rd through the 9th. Yep. They packed it all in. I hope they have them, because you know what happened in the AFC. Was it AFC? One confederation didn't have their competition, so they actually picked countries to go into the World Cup, and I was hoping that wouldn't happen in the CONCACAF. So right now in Guatemala, I've been told, yes, they're going to have this competition. So I would love to go. I hope they do it safely. You know, you have to look at Costa Rica and Guatemala first, right? Defending champ, a lot of futsal in both those countries. You got to look at Dominican Republic now has a Brazilian coach. You got to look at Panama. They just came back playing Morocco, and Morocco's got a great team, and they're going on another tour. And there's been other countries in Central America that are doing much more. Kit's done a wonderful job. Okay. I came very close to qualifying last time. Dusan, who's our new national team coach, along with Otto, have been doing a great job finding players here. I think it's going to be a great competition. I know it's going to be televised, so that'll be great for all of us. You know, I think you'd have to look at Costa Rica and Guatemala, and maybe 1-2, flip them. I think you're going to have 2 other countries that might shock people. Even Trinidad, Connie Constantine, who just left for Trinidad last week or 2 weeks ago, went into quarantine, and he's down there until May, and he's training them all the time. So I think it's going to be a great competition. I look forward to it.
Do you have any practices right now? Does the U.S. national team is practicing and getting ready for those games, or what's the organization and development right now?
I know some countries within CONCACAF are doing Zoom, doing fitness stuff, doing, you know, tactical work, but it's not the same as getting together. And again, I want to say this for your country and in my country. in Costa Rica and Guatemala and Panama and these other countries, majority of the players live in the same city.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Diego is a very good friend of mine from Argentina who won the 16 World Cup. I mean, I was at his training session before he went to go play Brazil years ago when they had 55,000 people in an outdoor stadium. I don't know if you remember that game. Yep. But we're in the parking lot and Diego's saying goodbye to all of his players. Hey, see you later. See you tomorrow. Say hi to your wife. Say hi to your kids. I turned to my assistant coach and said, I'll see you in 2 years. Our country is so big is that one comes from LA, one comes from New York, one comes from Dallas, one comes from Minnesota, one comes. So you got to spend $150,000, $200,000 at a training camp, and you only can get together for 7 or 10 days. Where these other countries are getting together, how do you compete now? It's very difficult. So, but Kit's done a great job. I know United States will be tough. Go Cuba. They've always been. I mean, they've lost twice in a final. Sorry, once or twice to me. But they're always very good futsal. So, yeah. and it's spreading.
And here, Kitch is doing a great job, in my opinion, as well. I agree with you. He was talking to me here, explaining that how many players he had as soon as he got the team a few years ago, and now the number is big. So we still have the same problems as you just described, but at least the number of players able to be picked and talk to, hey, come on, let's play, let's work together, let's make it happen. It's bigger. So he has been getting those players,
and your national championship has really helped.
Yes.
Right. I think that's in Toronto or Montreal. In Vancouver, I know is big in futsal, but your national championship, I think, has helped. Indoor soccer, like you said, Major Arena Soccer League, both has helped Canada. And by the way, could help Mexico because there's a lot of Mexican players playing in the league. And it definitely, it helped me a lot to get players. Different game.
Some players, they can play professionally, like pretty much all year round. They finish the season and then they play some soccer games or whatever, or they come back and play for a futsal game here in Canada. But they have an opportunity to play and live a life as a professional player, as a NASL player.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. You know, MASL, I know there's only a minute left. I'll go talk really fast. When I would travel the world, that was my education for futsal. Okay, because there's no indoor soccer books, there's no video, they don't have it at a coaching education. So when I would travel to Brazil, I'd sit down with Ferretti or whoever else is coaching and say, what do you do? Why do you do? Why do you do? Why do you do? And then I'd come back and they'd start rotations and splitting walls and doing all different stuff. It helped us win 6 championships, but I needed Brazilian players to help me teach it. That's why I went and got 4 or 5 Brazilian players, Marcio Leite, Luan, Chico, Jonathan Santos. They came in and it was like, I just sat back. It was like, oh, that's great. So
let them play. So Kit, thank you very much for coming. Is there any question, or were there any questions that you were prepared to answer and we haven't had a chance to ask you to talk about? Is there something that you would like to talk about more? We still have, I think, 1 minute.
Yes.
No, I think you've done an awesome job with your show. I mean, for some of the people you already had on, kudos to you guys. I hope you all stay safe up in Canada. I am part Canadian, by the way. So my friends in Canada, London, Ontario.
Oh, nice, London. Yeah.
So I hope you're all safe up there. I'll keep promoting you guys. I wish you all the best. And for everybody that is listening here, good luck in your futsal. Go to usyouthfutsal.com for level 1 to coaching education. And I'll just give a big shout out because I am the North American brand ambassador for Hummel. So I hope you don't mind.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
And you're right. All my great friends from JOMA, they do a great program. But if you're looking for some futsal stuff, Hummel.
Nice. All right. I have to do a quick close. This show can be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish Sports World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. So thank you very much again, Keith, for this interview. It was amazing and so thrilled to have you on. And we would love to have you back to talk about specifically how things go with CONCACAF in May. Fingers crossed.
It was my honor to be on.
Thanks.
Mucho obrigado.
Nada.
Obrigada.
Have a great day. Thank you, Keith.
See ya.
Bye-bye.